I've been in one fist fight my entire life. It was in the 5th grade at the bus stop, which is a very dangerous place to be having a fight because there are no adults involved. There's no parents there. There's no teachers, no adult supervision whatsoever. It is literally like the Wild West, right? Anything is fair game. And I remember clearly on that morning, I was standing there and a kid starts pushing me. And he pushes me. And he pushes me. And I try to reason with them. And when you're a 5th grader, that reasoning sounds like this: stop it, stop it, stop it. But he kept pushing me. So in that moment, what did I do? Took off my backpack. I threw down my lunchbox and my clarinet case. And I took a giant swing. And it landed squarely on his face. And if you could have frozen that moment in time, it would have been like a picture from the movie Rocky. Blood, spit. I landed my first punch in my first fist fight. I won. Or so I thought I did. Because what really happened was the kid grew 4 more arms and a bunch more fists and started punching me back. And it was like, boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Oh my gosh. I did not win that fight. I lost. Probably because I was fighting like this. Who fights like this, right? My first fist fight, I did not win. I lost. That was my first and only fight. But it's not the only conflict that I've ever encountered. Because like many of you, I've had a lot of conflicts in my life. Verbal fights. Emotional battles, conflicts with friends, family, coworkers, my kids, my wife, strangers. And let me tell you something about myself. I don't like conflict. I'm actually very conflict averse. Maybe because I got beat up in 5th grade, I don't know. But I'm very conflict averse. I'm the kind of person that probably tries to sweep it all under the rug, pretend like it never exists, just tries to avoid conflict. In fact, for most people, when you experience conflict in life, you tend to have one of 2 responses: fight or flight. Folks, I am not a fighter. What's the expression? I'm a lover, not a fighter. At least that's what I tell myself. I'm a lover, not a fighter. But the reality is that all of us, regardless of whether we fight or flight, experience conflict in life. It is a natural part of being a human being. It's a natural part of being in relationship with people. Unless you choose to live alone by yourself for the rest of your life, you will experience conflict. Conflict is 100% normal, which is why it's always funny. I get a chance to do some marital counseling sometimes. Sometimes I'll connect with newlyweds or premarital couples, and I'll ask them, hey, how do you guys address conflict resolution? And some of them will respond, oh, Chris, we never fight. We never argue. I mean, we're so good. Oh, really? Well, guess what? I'm about to start a fight with you guys right now. And by the end of the session, they're fighting, and I'm like, yes, welcome to marriage, yeah, But conflict is normal for everyone. In fact, as I was prepping for this talk, I realized there's over thousands of books written just about conflict resolution. On Amazon Prime, there are over 7,000 titles written about conflict resolution, which is a good thing, because if you have conflict to resolve in 2 days, boom, you got lots of choices right there, right? But conflict is normal for everyone. And what most of these authors, what most of these experts about conflict resolution will say is that most of us tend to view conflict through a win-loss proposition or through a win-loss lens, in the sense of I win, you lose, or I lose, you win, or what's the case for most people, a lose-lose situation, which is why experts try to create an environment where it can be a win-win alternative for folks. Now, I am no smarter, I am no wiser than any of these conflict resolution experts or authors, but there is one insight I would love to share with you today, one insight that I think would be very good to know. It comes from the Bible. The Bible actually has a lot to say about the conflict resolution. It actually comes from Jesus himself. In the Gospel of Matthew, he says this: if a fellow believer hurts you, go and tell him. Work it out between the two of you. If a fellow believer hurts you, go and tell him. Work it out between the two of you. Now, obviously, this is in the context of a church relationship, but Jesus' wisdom applies really to any kind of relationship, whether it's a family relationship, a neighborhood relationship, a work relationship. If anybody hurts you, go and tell him or her and work it out between the two of you. Other translations say just between the two of you. What Jesus is saying is go and talk to him. It's the first step that any counselor, any therapist, any expert, Jesus himself says, talk to them, not about them. Talk to them, not about them. That may sound really basic, but there are so many people that get that wrong. Because it's so much easier to talk about someone than it is to talk to someone. That's very much a temptation in our culture today. It's so much easier to talk about someone than it is to talk to someone. It's so much easier to post something on Facebook when you have a conflict with someone and gripe about it than it is to talk to them, giving them a call, sitting down with them over a cup of coffee. It's so much easier to hide behind your phone and post an angry face emoji about someone you have conflict with, I can't believe, than it is to actually go across the hall and talk to a coworker, or go across the street and talk to a neighbor. I mean, this is one of my personal pet peeves and frustrations in life. A buddy of mine, he got dumped, or his girlfriend broke up with him. And not because she told him, but because she posted something online about it. I mean, that's just rough, right? This happens all the time. Professional athletes, they find out that they've been traded or let go, not because their coach or manager tells them, but because they've read it in a news source or it's been tweeted about. It's so much easier to talk about someone than it is to talk to them. Heck, this even happens at our church. There might be some people that have a conflict with Woodstock City Church. And instead of talking to us so we can resolve the issue, they'll jump on social media and complain about us. And I know none of you have done that, but there are some folks that do. So folks, I want to give everybody in this room, everybody listening, the green light, right? The freedom to talk to us about that. If you ever have a conflict with Woodstock City Church, talk to us about that. And I'm gonna make that real easy for you. Here is Gavin Adams' personal cell phone number. Talk to him. The later, the better, right? Jesus continues on. He doesn't just say talk to them, but he continues on. He says, if a fellow believer hurts you, go and tell him, work it out between the two of you. He says, if he listens, you've made a friend. If he listens, you've made a friend. Another translation says it just beautifully. If they listen to you, you have won them over. If they listen to you, you have won them over. Notice what he doesn't say. He doesn't say you have won the fight. If he listens to you, you have won the argument. He says if they listen to you, you have won them over. Conflict resolution is not about winning the fight. It's about winning the person. Conflict resolution is not about winning the fight. It's about winning the person. And I know this very intimately because every time my wife and I get into a fight, I might be ahead in the scorecard of logic. If there's a scoreboard, it might say, Chris, you've got 3 great points. Debbie only has 2. But guess what? I never feel like I'm winning. That conflict is never getting resolved. Why? Because conflict resolution is about the relationship. It's not about winning the fight. It's about winning the person. So how do you do that? How do you win the person? How do you make this really practical? Well, Jesus has been real clear about it so far. When it comes to conflict resolution, number 1, you want to talk to them, not about them. And then number 2, you want to listen. if they listen to you, you've won them over. And Jesus is no dummy. He knows that this isn't a one-way listening relationship. The implication is that if they listen to you, it's because you've listened to them. There is a lot of listening going around. Talk to them, not about them, and listen. Can you imagine how many conflicts in our world could be resolved if people chose to talk to each other and listen? Can you imagine how many political conflicts could be resolved if our officials chose to not talk about each other, but to each other with a willingness to listen? Can you imagine? It happens in the church world as well. I remember an evangelism class I took, and the first thing that the professor said was, God gets so upset when all you care about is winning the theological argument or fight instead of caring about the person. Talk to the person, not about them, and listen. Let me give you one very specific piece of application. Anytime you are in conflict, anytime you're trying to manage conflict resolution, ask yourself this: do I want to fix the problem or strengthen the relationship? Do I want to fix the problem or strengthen the relationship? There are some problems that just need to be fixed. There are some conflicts that just need to be fixed. When my 3-year-old daughter wants to cross a busy street and she's in conflict with me because I don't want her to, well, guess what? We're going to fix that problem. Honey, you are not crossing that street. But in almost every other situation, it is about strengthening the relationship. That's why every marriage counselor, when they sit across from spouses that are in conflict, their goal is not to say, you're right, you're wrong, you're winning, you're losing. Their goal is always to strengthen the relationship. It happens in my work as well. What I do here at church, Gavin mentioned that I oversee our small groups. We have over 3,000 people in small groups, which means there's a lot of potential for conflict there. And not a week goes by where I don't hear about some group or some group leader or some group member that is in conflict. And almost every time, trying to resolve that conflict is not about identifying who's right or who's wrong or what the problem is or who's winning or losing, but it's about strengthening the relationship within that group, regardless of what people may think at the end of it. When you strengthen the relationship, the conflicts get resolved. Why? Because conflict resolution is not about winning the fight, but about winning the person. And that's good to know. Thank you very much.